Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to all the geeks out there, and all the geeks, and welcome to another podcast. Yes, we're doing it again once more, just to have a little bit of fun with everyone else. And we've brought some lovely new developers on board with us. Well, new developers. We've brought some developers on board to listen to give us a bit of information about their game. We're going to introduce them now. Kez is actually going to do the introductions and not me. So, yeah, you're going to have to because I don't know the company name. You know the company name. I don't. So, we'll get started and Kez will do the introductions.
So, we are on episode 2 of season 2. And we are with some really cool, amazing people, also from South Africa, surprisingly. Well, not really surprisingly, but it's surprisingly because they're game developers, and it's not often that you get that from South Africa that we're aware of. And we are sitting with the people, the amazing people of Nine Noir Lives. I know you have a name for your company, but it slipped my mind. So I'm going to hand it over to the both of you, and you can introduce yourselves to our viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. So the company is Silvernode Games. We've only released one game so far, Nine Noir Lives, and you know, when we say the company, you know, it's pretty much me and a bunch of contractors, and it took 5 years, and we did it part-time. So, you know, we still have day jobs. Unfortunately, that's the realities of development in Africa. But we released our game, and we're now starting to work on our second project, which we're very excited about. So just as a way of introduction, I'm William. I'm the, I guess you would say, CEO of the company. I'm the person who, you know, got the idea and, you know, pulled everything together and did the funding and built the game. So that's me. Daniel, I'll hand over to you.
Hi, yeah, so I'm Daniel. And I basically ended up doing sort of the writing and just idea bouncing for Nine Noir Lives. Yeah.
Instrumental in the story, you know. I mean, we're married, so, you know, all our little dinners out, it's business-related dinners. You know, so many ideas were born at Wimpy, you know, which is a local restaurant. You know, we would have burgers and we would have a little notebook. We got notebooks like this, so it was also very a collaborative effort over the years.
No, that's really awesome. So, the question from my side is, what got you guys actually wanting to play or make a game like this with the, like, you know, the premise of, you know, sort of Romeo and Juliet style, but in cat and in a more of a detective noir kind of a feel. What gave you the idea to actually do that?
Well, I think before you answer that question, we should get a layout for those who haven't played Nine Noir Lives, like the story behind it. Yeah. Because that would make sense, and then you can answer his question.
Well, yeah, okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, happy to. So it's a point and lick adventure game, because one of the things we can do is lick. You can lick everything. You can lick objects. You can lick other characters, whether they like it or not. Well, no, let me not say that. Consent is a thing, but it's all in vein of very humor. We have, so it's a point and click adventure game. It's set in an animal world we call Firth, and we have our capital city, Meow Meow Furrington, and we have our protagonist, Cuddles Nutterbutter. He's the best, or the second best PI in Meow Meow Furrington, and there's a murder at the local Nitty Kitty Club, and he has to head out and try and solve this murder, and then that escalates into a much bigger story. He's got his amazing assistant Tabby Marshmallow that helps him. You know, she's sort of the sounding board for him and his craziness, and it's just a classic point and click adventure game. You know, if you like good story, if you like good puzzles, you know, then that's pretty much for you. It's about a 10 to 12 hour experience. We do have a story mode, so if you struggle with puzzles, you can also enable the story mode, you know, to help you, because we know that that's not everybody's cup of tea. But if you're there just for the characters and the world, I think you'll find a story that's well worth experiencing, or at least that's what we see from the community. You know, it's super nice going and seeing our Steam comments and seeing, you know, the responses that people give, and I mean, it's very gratifying seeing that. So that's the story in a nutshell. Daniel, do you want to add anything there?
No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. And then the second part of the question, the idea for it and the reason why we made the game. I mean, we're gamers, right? Me and Daniel, we love gaming. And I've loved gaming since I was, quite young. And I've always wanted to make a game. And, about 5 years ago, I just decided, well, I guess it's 6 years now, I just decided I wanted to make a game and I was going to do it. And the genre that I guess you always revert back to your very first impressions of, the genre that had the most impact. And when I was younger, it was point-and-click games, Broken Sword, Grim Fandango, all of those games. And I wanted to do a homage to that, and really sort of dip into that nostalgic part of it. And me and Daniel, we love cats. That's also another thing that we do. So we decided Cuddles Nutterbutter, which is our main character, is actually based on our one cat. So you've got the two side by side. You'll see they're quite similar. And we just developed this world and the story, and I like intrigue. I like climactic moments. I like moments where that leaves an impact with players. And I believe that the point and click structure really gives you the ability to do that. So that's very much the reason why we chose to make a point and click. It's a genre we're quite familiar with, and we're good with developing puzzles, and Daniel's very strong with the writing and the narrative side of it, which is the other key thing about point and click. So that's probably the reason why we focused on that, and also scope, right? We couldn't really make a dragon-based MMO with like 2 people. So we just had to focus on what we can do in the time that we had available.
No, that makes perfect sense. And to be honest, Kez is the one who bought the game, so she's the one who's obviously been playing it. I actually hadn't gotten it yet, so I don't know much. I've literally watched the trailers, and I was hosing myself through the trailers, so I thought it was really funny. There's a lot of good humor that hides there. So Kez will probably have more of the questions about the game. I can only go as far as, like, for example, with the what I've seen in the trailers. But at some point I'll steal her Steam account and I'll just go and play it a bit. And
or
see what it's
we'll
like.
just get it for him.
Or I'll just buy another copy. Yeah, one of the two.
I'll send you a key. You just, I'll make a note.
I'm gonna support you. I'll support you. It's fine. I don't mind spending money on it. It's right to support you guys. So we'll actually pay for it.
Okay. Good.
So another question along those lines, the voice acting. Did you get professional actors to come in and help you there, or was that just a bunch of contractors that you hired out, the same as you did with everything else?
So it was a challenge in the beginning, but eventually we were lucky enough to meet Lucas and Carol and Dave from Hermit Collective, and they are professional voice actors. He did Mega Man, I think, Daniel, right?
Yeah, he's not Mega Man himself, but he played one of the characters from the Mega Man X series for quite a number of years. I can't remember which character now, but a well-known one.
And they did an amazing job. They got all the voice actors for the other characters, and they're just amazing human beings, and we're super good friends with them as well, and we hope to collaborate on the next project together as well. But yeah, very talented voice actors, and such great people as well to work with, because that's also the thing. It's not just, at least with this game, it wasn't just a product, it was a labor of love. And when people play the game, they do see that, or at least I see that people mention that in the comments. So it wasn't just, I remember when we did I think the first year of development, we had a very bare bones thing, and we went to Make Games SA Africa, which is a local game exhibit thing that they do. And I presented there, and they had like top 3 games that they got, and then there was a competition. I can't quite remember, Nordic something. Point being, one of the judges, I think it was an overseas person, they obviously interviewed the developers and so on. And one of the questions posed to me was, how do I expect this to make money? And the response is something that I still stand by today. It's not about the money. It's nice to have the money, but it's not about the money. It was really just like a labor of love, and we wanted to put something special into the world. And if you play the game, you know, it's just a good time. It takes you away from the realities of life, and that was really the answer as well. If it sells well, fantastic. If it doesn't, it's okay. You know, we did something beautiful and we put it out there. So that's pretty much, I don't remember why I started on this now, but yeah, that's pretty much the crux of it.
Yeah, no, I definitely get where you're coming from. I mean, how I've always seen it is a real artist and a true artist creates the art because they love the art and not for the monetary value. And you know, being a musician myself, that's how I see creating music. It's the same thing. So I 100% agree with you. You know, if you're the artist and you're creating this piece of work, whatever it may be, if you're doing it from the heart, then the money doesn't matter. It's about the what's actually behind that. So it's a good way to look at it. I like that. I think it's a very awesome way to look at that, actually.
But you can definitely see it when you play it, because you can see that it's so. Nowadays, especially, people just put games out because they want to make money, and it's not the greatest kind of game. And you look at it and you go, why did I spend money on this? And you end up refunding it or just never playing it again. But with Nine Noir Lives, I haven't finished it, I'm not gonna lie, but I do find myself, when I don't have anything else to play, I go, oh wait, I've still got this to finish, and I always go back to it because it was just so much fun to play it. And you can see that the effort and, like you said, the love that you put into it, because it's not just a, oh well, this is your game, this is our game, we want your money now. It's, you can see the amount of dedication and love and affection and everything that actually went into it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's great to hear, because it really was a labor of love, and there's a lot of heart in it. Well, I like to think that there is.
Yeah.
We actually also, how we found out about your game initially is we're friends with Two Idiots Streaming, and Penguzilla was streaming it on her channel, and she said to me, you have to get this game, because obviously we like cats too, and as we said, we have cats ourselves. So I watched her and I'm like, yes, I want to play it. And we were talking to them the other day and we said, well, we're going to speak to you guys, and she said, oh, I haven't finished it, I need to get back into it again as well. So it's always that reminder that people still know your game, it's still out there, and it still makes people go, yes, it's a good game. And you can hear the excitement and the passion that the people playing your game feel and have with it, which is always nice as well, because sometimes when people talk about games they go, oh well, yeah, but when the Nine Noir Lives comes up, you can actually hear the excitement in their voices, which is quite nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, and that's one thing with Kez and myself, we are always about the indie developers and indie games, because well, I mean, we obviously do have some AAA titles as well. It's not like we're just like indie only, but when it comes to gaming, I find that myself, I found that indie developers actually, you know, they design the games with the intention of actually making it good, and if there are problems, they're willing to fix it wherever they can. If the game comes out a little bit buggy, they will do what their best to fix it. And most of the time, when they release a game though, it's not actually buggy. You know, you'll find like one or two tiny bugs, but very, very seldom do you find as many bugs as you do in any of these AAA titles, and that's something that I respect a lot of you indie developers for. You guys actually, you put a lot of heart into actually making sure that the product is released perfectly, and that's why I've always said that when it comes down to it, if I had to choose between AAA titles and indie developers, I tend towards the indie developers because they're just they're there for the consumer, they're there for the gamers, they're actually trying to actually make a game that they will enjoy, and that to me is the most important thing. So I do have a lot of respect for you guys for doing that. So from my side, yeah, thanks. I appreciate that for you guys doing it. But yeah, I think Kez has got a couple of questions she needs to ask as well. I don't know what ones she has. So there you go, Angel.
I don't necessarily have questions. More just like favorite characters and stuff. Like the little the little robot computer in the beginning.
Oh, Storm.
Yes, I thought that was so cute. The way she's all like, I am Store and I am so powerful, and it's this tiny little computer. I loved it so much and I kept laughing at it. But Cuddles, with his licking as well, I took full advantage of that. I would go and lick everything. Even if he didn't want to, I would say, no, go and lick. You have to. It's there. You have to do it. I literally pressed everything that I could find, that I could think of. And just the comments as well, like the what he would say when you lick it or when you touch it, or also like in the club with the big bouncer and the peanuts.
Yeah, is it Pickles?
I
Yeah,
think it's
Tinkle.
Pickles.
Tinkle, sorry. He changed his name midway through production. Tinkle.
and the peanuts and the trying to get the peanuts, because Cuddles really wants a peanut, and it's
Why
quite
is it so
funny.
big? Giant,
It was
peanut.
just so funny. And I'm not gonna lie, I did, before we came on here, I skipped to the end. I watched the playthrough. I'm probably still gonna play it anyway, but and I'm not gonna spoil it for Ziffy, but I didn't expect that ending. It was very well done. It's like, okay, interesting.
I think Daniel should actually comment on that for the story.
It was just something that we really wanted to get right. I mean, story is such a big part of adventure games, and like, we didn't necessarily want to make anything, like, it had to be funny, but at the same time it's called Nine Noir Lives for a reason, because if you take out the comedy, there is very much just a noir story playing out there, and just these two estranged people and how they've come to relate to each other over the years. So it was very important for me that the ending properly sell that without being flippant, because it can be difficult to mix comedy and seriousness sometimes. But I mean, we spent, I don't know how long reworking that script, just optimizing and cleaning up and making sure that things made sense. And the ending got at least 4 or 5 drafts to kind of get right, and just less and less each time, just bringing it down to the core of the thing. And ultimately just trying to sell the idea that, sure, you are playing Cuddles, but Cuddles is his own person in this world, though, and he isn't as confident as you, the player, are, because he's had to experience these things directly, as it were. Like, you're seeing them from the perspective of being a player of the game, but in the world, Cuddles has had to put up with all the stuff, and he's got his humor and stuff to kind of deflect and deal with things, but it's still a pretty rough place to live, and we really wanted that to be the takeaway, apart from the little upbeat at the end to just say, look, things are going to be okay.
But I think, also the story itself, because it's ridiculous, it's cutesy, it's Cuddles Nutterbutter, it's Tabby Marshmallow, it's Meow Meow Furrington. But if you play the game, because there's a specific section in the midpoint where you're confronted, there was a murder, and there's family related to that murder, and that is a real thing. And it's interesting reading the comments as well, because people are saying, oh no, it was a fun time, and then suddenly it hit them like a brick in the middle of the game, super serious because someone's child died. And strong writing, strong acting makes such an impact that it really gets you invested. And the story itself is actually quite mature. It's, I won't spoil it, but there's, drug use, there's bad stuff in the game, and I think Daniel did an amazing job marrying the comedy with the seriousness, and just keeping that tone, because that's really difficult to do. So we market ourselves as a comedy noir game, which we are, but I mean, there is still a pretty good tale beneath it where you really get invested. I mean, what's nice is also in the comments, because this is our soundboard to understand how people experience it, apart from the reviews and stuff, which were also good, but in terms of actual players, day to day, some people said, they shed a tear at the ending, and we really stuck the landing in that sense, and it's difficult to do that. So I'm happy about that, because the characters in the world, it deserved it. I mean, we can't fumble the ball right at the end. But as Daniel said, it went through many iterations, and lots of discussions, and it ended in a pretty good place. Yeah, I want to talk about it like in detail, but that's going to be spoilers. So, but yeah, we're happy with it.
I think you're welcome to, because if he will still play it, and
how long has the game been out for now?
We released September 2022, which is just
about 2 years. almost 2 years now. You can spoil it. I mean, it's been. If
He'll
they
still
haven't played
play
the
it.
game by now, then I can't help them.
Also, Ziffy will still play it regardless because he's that kind of person. If you tell him, he'll still go and play it anyway.
Yeah, we'll do the normal. At this point, you may want to skip ahead.
Okay.
Toast will put the number and time down so that you can see when the spoilers are finished.
I think then for me one poignant moment is because Tabby and Cuddles, we really spent a lot of time building their relationship and developing Cuddles' character and Tabby, and they sort of they level each other out and they're so complementary. And at the end there, Tabby is she does what she needs to do to help to Cuddles gets kidnapped. She helps Cuddles escape, and then she goes in and she sort of gets compromised. She and she's a bit out of it, but she wants to go and get the villain of the game. And Cuddles says, no, you stay, I'll go and handle it. And then, you keep playing, and then there's a confrontation on the airship, and you have this dialogue between the villain and Cuddles, and, it comes about where Cuddles said, listen, Tabby's the person I care about. And I knew if I had her, more involved, she would be in more
She'd
risk.
scratch your eyes out.
Exactly, she would be in danger. So I actively chose to come and confront you to get the airship up and away from her, because to lose her would, just be too terrible a thought. So he put himself in that position. Vulnerable, he doesn't have a lot, but he was content in the fact that Tabby was safe. And then obviously he gets shot, but he manages to that sort of
shimmy.
Exactly. So I mean, that was a beautiful moment. I mean, when you meet Edgar, the victim's father, for the first time, Bartholomew, he's a real person. He has a lot of pain, and obviously we also reflect back to the character and the player their actions, because it is a bit ridiculous. I mean, at one point you talk to another character which runs, because there's two crime families. Bartholomew is the one crime family, and then Scarlet's the other, and you talk to Scarlet then, and she reflects back to you what you did. Arson, you poisoned someone, and these are all in the guise of puzzles that you do, silly puzzles, but if you actually look at it, it is things that Cuddles did, and he's standing there, judging her, and then she reflects that back. So I think the point being, throughout the story, there's these moments of depth, that I think people really enjoy, and it's unexpected because the art style and all of that doesn't really show that. But if you look at the product, like the art style, I love the art style, but it was more means to an end. We had a limited budget. Building a game in South Africa is tough, with the exchange rate and getting. I'm super happy with what we came up with. It's still a bit scrappy, but it gets the job done. So the art style might betray what is actually going on underneath a bit, but I think once you get to play it and you sort of get stuck and you get committed and you get to that first point, then it's got its hooks in you, and then you want to see it through to the end.
That's very true. And even with the art style, I still like it, and it does betray it a little bit, because you think, it's going to be a funny game, but the way you guys put it, and like you said, you don't expect the seriousness of some of the things that you come across, like with the death of Edgar, and with all the fluff going around and everything. You don't expect it, but it's not put in such a way that, okay, this is a really serious game or it's a really funny game. The balance between the comedy and the seriousness is just right, that okay, you're in a serious moment now, and then when you're in a funny moment, but it just, in my opinion, it works.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's that willing, as they always say, the willing suspension of disbelief. If you guys put it into a story perfectly, like I said, I haven't played it yet, but from what Kez is actually saying, it seems like you've actually pulled that off perfectly. And when you want to create a story, you want people to actually be drawn in, but at the same time still have that willing suspension of disbelief. And if you've done it the right way, from what Kez has said, it makes the story much better. And from what I've read, the reviews on Steam as well, and I mean, the game is showing as very positive for a reason. Clearly, a lot of people think that this game is actually worth, even with the art style, a lot of people are saying that the art style actually works for the game. So it may have been a rush job for you guys, and you just needed to get it out, but at the same time, it's those things that make a game just that much better. It makes it something that actually becomes a piece of nostalgia for people who've played a game and they want to go back to something that they actually enjoyed from a previous time. That this game could easily turn into something like that, which in my opinion is how any good gamer actually feels, because I've got a lot of nostalgic games that I play and I always go back to them, and I'm talking about like 1997 and even further back, like I mean the original Mega Man when he was actually called Rockman.
Wow.
That's the kind of games that I used to play when I was a kid, so giving away my age there. But if you guys are doing such a good job of that, it just means that you've captured what you needed to, which is exactly what you're looking for. I did have a question though. I noticed that some of it looked a little bit Monkey Islandy. Who was the brainchild behind that one?
I love Monkey Island. I love all the Monkey Islands.
Too.
I think my first introduction to it was Monkey Island 3. Absolutely adored it. So there's a lot of inspiration on that. We to our detriment, I would say. We like with Monkey Island 3, you have gameplay and then you have like little cutscenes interspersed through the game, like just to add some flair and stuff. And at one point, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw this, but at some point in the game, we have like a 2.5-minute cutscene of Tybalt McTherodon, doing a thing about doing a promotion for one of our characters' shops, and it's in the theme of a space opera type thing with food elements. And that was 2.5 minutes. In hindsight, I think, man, that's crazy to think that we actually wanted to do that. But it is about that nostalgia and about hitting those beats. And Curse of Monkey Island, I just loved it. I thought it was just exceptional. So I'm guilty as charged.
You know what? It's not a bad thing. Trust me. Monkey Island is probably one of the more popular point-and-click adventure games as it is anyway. Because when people think point-and-click, they think, like you said, Grim Fandango and all those kinds of games. But Monkey Island always sticks out a lot with people because they remember the humor behind Monkey Island, and then they remember the I'd say the difficulty of the game, which was something that I always loved. I like a challenge, so for me it's always good to have a nice challenging point-and-click game because it makes it more fun for me. But I think it was the same thing from that side, where it's just basically you're paying homage, as you said, to those games, at the same time as just making a good game. And you didn't overdo it though. From what I can see, from what I've seen, you haven't overdone it. So you haven't basically just taken Monkey Island and slashed it all over the game. You've subtly put it in places. It's just, you notice it and you're like, that reminds me of Monkey Island. But you can see that it's not, because it's still, it's like the bar scene where the flames are on the bar and he wants to lick the mask. That there was the I was like, yeah, no, that looks so much like Monkey Island, but it's just so well placed because it's like, have you ever wanted to lick a mask?
My favorite scene from the bar is the door with the rats. Squeak, squeak.
Squeak.
I saw that. I actually started laughing at that as I was like, what the hell? He's like looking for something. Where is it? Squeak. That was good.
One of the key things we wanted to do with the writing that we decided early on actually was that we didn't want there to be any references to things, because I find that references, sure, it's a shortcut to making a joke, but if someone plays your game 5 years later, they might have no idea what you're referencing, and then it isn't a joke anymore. It's just a confusing thing that someone says that's clearly meant to be funny, but unless you've got the context, you have no idea what it is. So we tried really hard to not just use references to things. There is a bunch of references, especially to stuff we like, but it's usually structured in such a way that it's funny as you see it. If you don't know it's not a reference, it won't matter. You'll still find it funny. But we've peppered all sorts of references to shows and games and books that we like throughout the game, and most of them people aren't going to pick up on. But like one guy tweeted us about one particular very obscure reference to a show called Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, and just the fact that one person got it and thought it was amazing made it all worth it, you know. So yeah.
But that's what you're looking for, though. It's just that one person to notice the little Easter eggs that you pop in there.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely key, because I mean, point and clicks have never been the biggest genre. Well, not for 20 odd years. And so the temptation is to make it as broad as possible, so that as many people as possible get it. But the problem is, at the same time, that wasn't the sort of game we wanted to make. I mean, William wanted to make the sort of game he remembers playing, and that had a very specific style. And we didn't just want to do some standard sort of thing. So we ended up with this massive script that was far, far, far bigger than we initially imagined. It was twice the size we originally wanted to do, because we just couldn't stop writing about this world and putting things in for the characters and stuff. And sure, the length certainly puts some people off based on the reviews. They say there's too much talking, and but I take solace in the fact that at least it's good writing. Like, if you have to listen to a lot of writing, it must at least be good writing, and then you can kind of...
And then voice acting.
Yeah, I think the voice acting helps a ton. Although it's very, very interesting in that regard, because obviously some people are like, this is the best voice acting I've ever seen in a point and click, and then someone else said, I'm not sure what voice actors they use, but they sound like they're fresh out of voice acting school, whatever. Maybe they should practice a bit more. Meanwhile, everyone in this like 20 plus year veteran of voice acting, so it's funny how different people perceive the same thing. In the end, despite our little weird, it's like very indulgent, massive script and our very indulgent cutscenes and all these sorts of things, it ultimately made something that's very us, and we're very, very happy with it. And it's fantastic to hear that years later people are still discovering it and loving it, because what more can you ask for as a game developer?
Exactly.
Just to mention, we this is again just, we can do it because we don't have a publisher, we don't have, responsibility towards answering to someone. It is what our product is. But right at the end there, when Tabby goes and rescues Cuddles, you meet two guards at the gate, and that's voiced by me and Daniel. It's not the greatest.
So.
It's not the greatest voice acting. I will say that straight out. I was a bit, should we do that? But Lucas, the voice actors guy, says, put yourselves in the game. It's your game, do it. But it's so interesting because we read some of the comments and like, the voice acting is amazing, but it's weird. At the end there's two voices that, it sounds odd, like right. These people. So it's just like, yeah. No. And I want to tell the people, I know, it's me and Daniel. Daniel did a better job than I did, but yeah, it's funny. I mean, we also had one line where I think Tabby comes out of the, she changes into the mouse Zilla suit, which is a whole other thing. And the actress at the beginning of the line, accidentally burped Carol Ann. And we said, hey, let's keep it in. So, you can listen to Tabby go, burp, and then say the line, and it's in there, and it's not a mistake, and that's the beauty of it. We can do whatever we want, and we did. Yeah. So, yeah.
No, it's awesome that you've actually, added that freedom into the game for yourselves, so that the game is you're not having to answer to anyone and any investors or anything like that, because I find that is a problem these days where, as Kez was saying, when the games get released, a lot of these AAA titles get released far too quickly, and even some of these other titles that get released. I mean, we were talking about it the other day with one of our friends, and he's a regular guest on the show. We were talking about Gollum, and how they rushed through that game so much that the game just basically was broken as it came out, and it was not what anyone wanted, because it looked nothing like Gollum should look, and the gameplay was just it was so immersion breaking,
terrible.
And it was all due to investors. It's the investors and the higher ups saying, we want the game released now, and there's nothing you can do about it. Release it now, and if they keep doing that, they're going to kill any of these games that come out before they even get released. And it's developers like yourselves that actually put a lot of heart into it, and you can see
you take your time,
and that's I respect people if they say, look, we're gonna hold back on releasing the game and we don't feel like it's ready yet. So we're gonna just hold back a bit and we'll release it a little bit later, but just give us a chance to do it. I don't mind if they do that, as long as when they release the game it actually is a working product. It doesn't matter to me, because I know how much work you guys put into a game. So if you have to take a bit longer to do it, so be it. It's better to have a good working game than have a broken piece of crap.
Yeah. No, you raise a good point. I mean, with all the new AAAs and stuff that comes out, in effect, you have to wait like 6 months before you actually play it. I mean, there's a day one patch, which is okay. I guess that's okay, but then it's still broken, and you have to wait 6 months for them to fix it, which is just crazy, and it's become the norm. People accept it, which is super sad. That is the sort of a thing that happens now. But I think the whole game industry, development industry, is in a bit of a mess. I mean, the amount of people that they're letting go last year and this year already. I think I saw an article where they've fired, I think about in February already, about half the amount of people fired in all of 2023. I think something like 6,000.
January, you mean? Must be.
Yeah. I mean, in 2024, half
So
of the
far,
amount of exactly. So, and it's all greed and stuff. I mean, these companies have so much money, and they take away people's livelihoods, which is just ridiculous to me. So
yeah, it is. And the thing is, when they do this, it's like I don't know if you heard the recent news about the acquisition of well, not the recent news, but the company that acquired Eidos Entertainment.
Yep.
So the guys who did basically. And Deus Ex, for example, I'm a huge fan of Deus Ex. I've always loved that game. I thought that the very first game when it came out was like, it may look really bad in some people's opinion, but it was the gameplay that got me going. And I ever since then, I'd been a big fan of Deus Ex. Now, what they've gone and done is they've literally basically removed, I think, 2/3 of the staff from the Deus Ex team, so they're no longer doing the game. That game's dead in the water. They made all these huge promises about how they were going to bring back Legacy of Kain. That's not going to happen anymore. They've basically just killed a whole bunch of games that a lot of people were looking forward to, and it's just because, oh well, we bought the company, so we'll keep the IPs. Now no one can use them. It's like, great. Exactly. Now those games are never going to come out, and all you're doing is just hoarding crap, and you're not getting anything for it. So, well done for wasting your own money, basically. And you've actually just, I'm not going to lie, pissed off a lot of gamers. Because for me, for example, I really wanted to see a sequel to Deus Ex.
Yeah, same. But Embracer Group has single-handedly done so much damage to the game industry, because I think there was some sort of Saudi Arabia deal. They were going to get billions, but that fell through. But before that happened, they bought all these companies, and it's just a slaughter now.
Exactly.
Because of bad planning on their side, and now it's all these loved franchises like Deus Ex and Legacy of Kain. It's just gone now. So they're single-handedly responsible for a lot of the stuff that's going on, which is so unfortunate.
It is, and it's. I mean, I watch another YouTuber. His name is Yongye, and he was talking about how this is not the first time Embracer has done this either. They've done this to other companies too, and it's like, I don't understand the logic behind buying an IP and then destroying it. You're basically just wasting money. That's all you're actually doing. You're not getting anything. There's no monetary value for spending, what was it, $300 million on this franchise, or on Eidos Montreal. $300 million they spent on this, which in gaming terms, as Yongye said, it's a steal. But at the same time, they've spent all that money, and now they're not getting anything back for it, because they keep just removing people from the company. It's like, okay, well, there goes that game, there goes that game, there goes that game. All of our games are gone. So we just wasted $300 million.
But you know what? I think it's clueless people in management, and you don't just see it in game industries. You see it everywhere. I mean, Square Enix did not really even know what to do with Eidos Montreal. I mean, they're going into a weird, cryptocurrency blockchain type game. They have Final Fantasy. That's great. But I mean, the CEO's letter and stuff, it's all these things that they NFTs and all of that they're pursuing. They're offloading all these talented studios. And, you know, you get people in management that just don't really know what gaming is, you know.
No.
They just want a number at the end of the day. And that's why, you know, company A makes 500 people redundant. Oh, okay, company B, they did that, let's also do that. You know, and then you get these slew of companies that just let thousands of people go, you know. So it's just, it's people that are clueless and they are making these decisions. So it's very unfortunate.
It is. We'll not leave the damper down though. We gotta be more upbeat because we're the upbeat SA Geeks. That's what we do. No.
What are your favorite games to play when you're not developing? No, wait. First, is there gonna be a sequel to Nine Noir Lives? Because I saw that a lot of people are waiting for a sequel.
I would want to make that, but unfortunately the game didn't sell too well to merit that. I wish I could, but you know, unfortunately it was self-financed, so we would only really do that if we have external funding. So but I have great plans for the sequel, so that might happen. It's not going to happen now, but we want to continue Tabby and Cuddles' story for sure.
Your other question?
What kind of games do you play, or what's your favorite game at the moment when you're not working on your other projects or working on your day jobs? What's your favorite go-to games?
I'll go first. I recently finished Dead Island 2. I absolutely adored it. I spent 40 hours in that game, and it's weird. Zombie games, it's not something I do, but I just found it very enjoyable. You know, running around hacking zombies to bits with lead pipes and stuff like that. So really enjoyed that. That was my latest one. I'm now playing Subnautica as well. So also like the whole crafting thing. So that's me right now.
Huge fan. If you've seen any of our other videos, you'll know that I'm a big fan of buildcraft and
survival games.
Daniel is quite keen on Subnautica as well. I think he's played it like 5 times.
Yeah, I just really enjoy the loop in that, and also the underwater aspect. There aren't enough good underwater games. It's just really fun.
Yeah, and that terrifying feeling of there's something behind you. Because that's one thing. I've got this like really horrid fear of water. Not like swimming and stuff like that, but the ocean and open water.
The unknown
of
like what's
that.
in there.
Yeah. I have this like. It's a good way to face that fear, but it's there constantly. And whenever I'm playing Subnautica, I'm just like, wait, there's something behind me, and I keep turning around. Whenever I'm playing this game, I'm always turning around to see if there's something behind me.
It's pretty common. I think it's called thalassophobia. Basically, just the fear of those dark depths. Because, like you say, it's like 5 kilometers down, and you're just floating on the top, and anything could be down there. It's
exactly.
You know. But we also finished Dredge recently. That was much more enjoyable than I expected.
I can't say I've played it, but I've heard about Dredge. Is it any good?
Oh, it's very good. Yeah, it's sort of a Cthulhu-esque fishing game, basically.
Ooh, okay.
Excuse me. But it's got lots of cute little mini games where each fish has different shapes, and you've got like a fixed inventory size, so you have to rotate them to fit them in, and you can't always pick up more fish, and then you've got to upgrade your boat and solve little mysteries, and yeah, it was just very cute.
Cool. Sounds interesting. Might give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, apart from that, I don't play games quite like William. William will play a game and finish it. I'll either play a game where there is no end, like I'll pop into WoW now and then and just waste an hour or two, or I'll play like a Vampire Survivors type thing and just play like a fixed 30-minute match and then once a week or whatever. I don't usually get stuck into one game and stick with that. I'll jump around to lots of different things for brief amounts of time.
Yeah, it sounds like what I do as well. I tend to play like hundreds of games. I've literally got about, I think so far, about 15 to 20 games installed, and I'm playing all of them, but like at different intervals.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, so other than gaming though, what are your other pastimes? I mean, what are the other fun things that you guys like to do?
I mean, reading. Love reading. Mostly horror. I love horror as a genre. Games as well. I love playing horror games. Horror books. I love it. Yeah, mostly chasing the cats around the house. That's also a fun thing to do.
That's the norm, yes.
Yeah, and we love our shows as well. We love the British panel shows with the humor. We recently subscribed to a channel on YouTube called Dropout TV. It's an additional cost per month, but it's also hilarious. It's panel shows and improv acting basically. We really like that. What else, Daniel?
I mean, not much else. We have very, very simple lives. We don't. I mean, our day jobs are quite intense. There's a lot of responsibility there. So after that is over for the day, there isn't much drive to do anything too intense. It's just to relax and just do a few simple things. Yeah. I do some writing on the side. I play a little bit of games. I read. That's about it.
But Daniel doesn't do horror, so he leaves me alone to play all the horror games, and he doesn't enjoy that at all. When I played Alien Isolation the first time, that was quite a few years ago. I replayed it recently. Also love that game. But when I played it originally, I would have him on Discord with me because I wouldn't want to play it alone. But he doesn't want to sit and watch. So I would just have him on Discord with me in the background in his office, and I'm in my office playing the game. And oftentimes he'd just hear me give a little yelp of fright. But yeah, we make it work,
Yeah, that's pretty much Kesh. I'm not. For me, when I play horror games, it depends on the game. I just don't feel it. So I'll go in and there's jump scares, and I'll just go ooh. So scary. So
no, but those are the multiplayer ones. The single player ones, like Outlast and stuff, you enjoy more
I
as
opposed
Outlast
to and I shit myself. I'm not gonna lie.
Playing Phasmophobia or Demonologist because it's the same thing over and over again. Those ones you don't like, but you have played Alien Isolation and Outlast. And
sorry, that was I probably should have elaborated. I like the single player horror games. So Alien Isolation, for example, I do like that the sense of being chased by that alien and that xenomorph just scares the crap out of me.
And there's nothing you can do.
And there's nothing you can do. You can't fight it. You can't. You've got to just hide from it. It is that sense of helplessness that actually just makes the game that much better. So I get those kinds of games, but like Phasmophobia and stuff like that. If you've ever seen me playing Phasmophobia with Kez and our friends, I will walk in. I'll literally just walk in ahead of everyone and just start antagonizing the ghost. Just because I could not care less. So I'm like, okay, well, here's the ghost. It's in this room. He just killed me, so you can find him. It doesn't scare me enough, so those games just don't do it for me, though. But yeah, Kez has got her own. She loves playing those games, though.
I do. I'm so scared. I am the biggest chicken shit you will ever meet, but I play the scary games.
Good. Daniel, take some notes.
we go into abandoned castles, and real abandoned castles. We've got one. There's one in Ayr that we visited, and we actually went into the castle. My friend and myself actually walked around in the basement and things like that. We were looking around at everything. She would not set foot inside that castle.
It was too dark.
She refused because it was so dark in there. Him and I were walking around with torches, looking in the different rooms and stuff like that. And she was like, no, I'm not going in there. I was like, okay, we're going to carry on, so bye.
Yeah, but I mean, Scotland has got such amazing places to visit. I love Ireland. I love Scotland. I mean, my first overseas trip the first time I ever went overseas was to Ireland, and I just absolutely loved it. Just the history, because we don't really have that here. You can't really go to a medieval castle in South Africa. So I find that fascinating, and we also quite enjoy watching historical stuff in terms of how people lived. There's a BBC series called Living in the Tudor era, and there's several of these. And then these four historians, have you seen it? And
is it the farming one, or is it the
farming one? Yeah, there's several. Yeah.
I watched one where they lived in a Victorian as Victorian farmers, and wow, I get it. I love
know,
those shows.
crazy,
I really do.
So then you get to see how people lived, and you realize, yes, we live in our time now, but we're
so
just a small
comfortable.
speck in a hole, and we're super privileged living now. You know, back then,
you look back at what
Yes.
these people went through. I mean, like I was watching some other show where they were doing where they were talking. It was about I think it was the HMS Victory, and they were talking about how the surgeons, how they worked on the sailors when they were injured, like if they were shot with a bullet or like one of those pellets and stuff like that. And you think how lucky we are that we have general
Hospitals.
anesthetic,
Yeah.
where we can actually be put under and they can take it out and we won't feel a thing.
Oh yes, because they had to bite down on it.
They had to literally just
bite down on something
I
and
can't remember what it was
live
called.
with it.
It was,
They had like
made them
some
hard.
other dull thing, but it would
Yeah.
basically
but
hardly numb it.
Cutting a guy's leg off, and he's just chewing on some antonym or whatever the hell they called it, and it's just dulling the pain slightly. I couldn't imagine how unbelievably painful that must be.
I mean, the conveniences we have today, like refrigeration. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
that's like when, I don't know, 1940s, 1930s, whenever. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's not long ago. That's like 100
Yeah,
years
not at
ago.
all.
I mean, it's so many things that we take for granted, you know, that we...
Indeed.
Back then, those people just, they got up at like 6 in the morning and they worked 10 hours just to live, to eat at the end of
Exactly.
the day. So,
And they, like the farmers and how early they would get up in the morning, and all the planning that they had to do to prepare or to protect like their animals through winter, especially here in the UK, where the crops are basically frozen in winter, and they can't really get any hay or anything to feed the cows with or the sheep with. They need something to feed them, so they would actually have to store the hay. And if they did it incorrectly, that entire crop would be gone. All that hay would be gone. And they would have to go and buy from other farmers because they didn't have any left, and that could bankrupt farmers most of the time. It's actually scary, the kind of stuff that they had to go through. I mean, granted, I don't think the farmers are doing too well right now either. They're kind of still struggling up here, but
They're doing better than
they've
back
got
then.
they've got a lot more equipment now than they did back then. I mean, like everything. The land was tilled by hand with a donkey. The donkey would pull
Crazy.
the plow, and now you don't have to have it. You've got tractors and all that stuff that do it for you. But I 100% agree with you. Looking back at how much they had to deal with back then, I
Yeah.
couldn't.
I mean, the average life expectancy, I can't quite recall, but I guess it was like 40, around
I
there.
think it was between 40 and 50, yeah, as far as I
Yeah.
remember.
That's how long you were expected, and then you were doing well.
Granted, that was
you know?
wars as well. I always take into account the wars that were happening during those times, because it was also a very violent time. I mean,
Yeah.
holy crap, so many wars. More then than there are now. So, the life expectancy is like, it drops to zero pretty quickly.
and I always think, what did they do in their spare time? But like, there was nothing
They
to do.
didn't
no
really have
reading.
any.
They didn't have spare time.
No
They were too
spare time.
tired. They
Yeah.
were like, I need to go sleep. And they had like
Yeah.
20 kids, because that means like 20 additional people could help on the farm
Yeah.
or whatever.
It's
a
we
different
don't know how
time.
many are going to survive as well, because there were
Yeah.
so many diseases that would kill kids.
Yeah.
It was actually crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
you think now chickenpox wouldn't kill kids easily today because we've got all the medicines that can help them. Back then, there were no medicines to help them when they caught chickenpox or measles or anything like that. It was a case of life or death. You're either going to survive through this or you're going to die. Those are the two things. And it's scary to think that that's how it actually was. And yeah, it's just scary and heartbreaking at the same time. So yeah, it's just terrible times. but
I'm
such
happy to
great
live in this
history.
time. We've got video
Yeah,
games.
indeed,
So-
indeed.
Keep us busy.
So, who are your favorite authors? Because you both said that you like to read.
Daniel, do you want to?
I like a lot of sort of science fiction and fantasy stuff, especially sort of late 90s, early 2000s stuff. There's an author called Robin Halb who's written, I don't know,
Yeah.
15, 20 odd books. Just a fantastic writer.
Yeah.
So her stuff is very much the top of my list. But then just, Stephen Baxter, Tolkien, not Einstein, Asimov. There's a bunch. I can't remember all the others offhand, but yeah.
I quite like horror authors. I recently found Adam Neville, and I just binged all his books. Fantastic. That sense of creepiness he just has a way with, like creating stories that are super intriguing, gory but very good. Clive Barker as well. I think his stuff is absolutely fantastic. He's got the Books of Blood, I think it's called, which is 5 books, a collection of all these short stories in that. Such a good read. If you guys like horror and you want to read some of that stuff, it's just so interesting. I mean, he's got one story where this guy, the fingers are actually sentient. So when he sleeps, these fingers are actually sort of talking and figuring out how they're going to break free and go and live their own lives. So that's the level of creativity that we're talking about. So go and read it. It's so highly recommended. I think it's fantastic. And Adam Neville as well. He's got who's that? Perdita Street Station, China Miville. Also fantastic. Yeah, not horror. Really, it is a bit gross, but again, those concepts, it's such high concepts, and it's very interesting to read.
No, that's cool. I'm more of a fantasy person myself, fantasy sci-fi as well. So I know Robin Hobb. I think I read one of her books. I can't remember which one it was, but I may have read one of her books. I think I did.
You did.
But one of my favorite artists, one of my favorite novelists is it's got to be Remedy Fast. The way he wrote The Magician. Kez is, we've got the audiobook at the moment, and I'm busy. We played it in the car on the way to work in the morning, and she's actually even intrigued, and she's not
I'm really getting into books now. Yeah. It's never been something I really did when I was younger, and only now recently have I started going, I should actually start reading some books. So we're getting me into the steps of reading.
Yeah, so
I mean, that is a classic, The Magician.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just finished rereading that, and I think I'm halfway through Darkness and Silverthorn.
I want to reread this whole thing. Why are you reading Darkness and Silverthorn? Shouldn't you be doing Silverthorn first?
I find the whole series, I mean, because I first read it as a teen and it blew my mind then. Rereading it as an adult, Magician holds up, although it can be very rambling at times, especially in his modified version where he put back like 50,000 words. But the later series do tend to get the quality is not quite up there. It almost becomes a bit sort of action movie-y to a large extent, and the characters aren't quite as well developed. But it's still very enjoyable to read, just to kind of. And that actually reminds me of another series I read last year, or finished reading. It's a genre I didn't really know existed before I came across this book, because it kept popping up in recommended lists, and I can't remember the title now, but I'll see if I can track it down. But it's basically about this character it's a world where there's a very strict hierarchy of power, and it's like you start at like bronze, and then you go to like, say, gold, and then you go to all the way up to like monarch is like the top level, where you've got power over the entire planet.
Jeez, that sounds interesting.
It's based on a philosophy called, I believe, Chinese cultivation fantasy, which is this idea of developing yourself on your own power and reaching specific tiers. Very, very Dragon Ball Z. Like you do enough of this, and then you are at another explicit tier of power, which makes you impossible for anyone lower than you to challenge. That sort of structure of power. And this book series follows a character as he works his way up and challenges bigger and bigger enemies and all sorts of stuff. Very, very fun reading. And I believe he wrote there's like 12 of them, and I think he finished the last one last year. I'll see if I can quickly track down the title of that series, because I'd never thought of that as something I would be that interested in, but I really enjoyed reading it.
No, that sounds really intriguing.
There's also, we found Brandon Saunderson recently.
Oh,
Oh,
Sanderson, yes. I mean,
Yes.
he's one of the
Kez
big
started
boys at
reading
the
that.
moment, for sure.
Yeah.
I've started reading the first book in his series. I'm reading it, and then Ziff is going to read it when I'm done, and it's really interesting. What I've read so far.
He's a very
And-
solid writer, yeah.
Yeah, it's only because the reason why we found it is because the guy at the bookshop that we bought it from, he said that Sanderson actually wrote or helped finish or finished the Wheel of Time series.
Yeah, that's also
and
where I
Robert
first
Jordan
read it.
actually chose him to finish it, so
Yeah.
it was like, wow, that is one hell of an honor.
And honestly, his 2 books at the end there, I found them much more enjoyable than the previous 5 books of Wheel of Time.
Oh, nice.
The middle of Wheel of Time was so slow, and I really struggled to engage with it because the characters just took forever to do things, and they were always the same. There was no real character development. The last 2 books felt like a breath of fresh air to me. I really enjoyed them.
Nice. Yeah, so that's one that I'm going to read after Kez reads hers. Then I'm going to do it, get going with that book and see how it is.
I mean, he also wrote a series. I'm not sure if you're on, because he's got a couple of series going, but he wrote one that's basically set in this fantasy world where certain people can swallow metal and. Yes, it's that one. Yeah, so that's one where they can swallow metal and then burn it to get certain powers. And that was absolutely terrific. And then he's got a totally different universe, mostly totally different, where it's much more high fantasy. And that's sort of his currently ongoing one. I can't remember the exact title of it. But that is developing over time. So that Final Empire one is sort of very medieval. And then there's a series after that which is more sort of steampunky, and then there's a new one that's going to come out which is then going to be post-futuristic even. So as the world evolves, he's looking at stories within the world, even as the magic system remains the same, which is a very interesting way of doing it, because often it stays medieval and that's just it, you don't really see it. How would this magic work in a world that's more advanced than ours, for example? That's not something you see a lot of. So he looks at some very interesting ideas, and he writes incredibly fast. He does 2 huge books a year or something insane. It's just crazy. Over COVID, he couldn't attend cons and stuff, so he just wrote an extra 4 books. Just to fill the time.
Jeez, he's got so. How many ideas has this guy got rolling around in his head?
He's not short of them. By the way, that series I mentioned earlier, it's called Cradle. Cradle is the series, so you can check that out. It's very interesting.
We'll definitely keep an eye out for that as well. Kez knows this. I'm an avid reader. I love reading, mainly because when I was young, I was diagnosed with a reading problem where I can't read books properly, or I can't read words properly, and they call that dyslexia. So instead of letting it defeat me, I was just like, you know what, screw that, I'm going to read anyway. So when I was diagnosed, I think it was about 8 or 7, somewhere around there, and I picked up the first book I actually picked up was The Lord of the Rings, and I read it from cover to cover and absolutely loved it. And after that, then I went on to The Magician as well. So I didn't stop reading books because I felt that I'm not going to let it overpower me. So I was like, let me overpower it and I'll just read. Hence the reason why I can still read properly, but it's sometimes I'll write backwards or write upside down. It happens. Not on purpose, but it does happen.
But we even have funny little, well, not funny, but cute little books like the Winnie the Pooh collection.
Yes, and Asterix.
We actually have the full, not Asterix, what's it? Tintin. The full Tintin collection sitting on our shelf.
I want to get the Tintin collection at some point as well. I really want to, because I loved Tintin when I was a kid.
It's funny because obviously this is pretty much the originals, and it includes Tintin in America, which is basically, gosh, look at all these redskins living in their weird tribal ways, and it's okay. But it was written by a Frenchman in the 1930s, so you must know.
Exactly, you gotta expect it.
Some of the stuff there is a bit la-di-da-di-da.
Yeah,
in hindsight, looking at because I also fondly remember it, and I bought the whole collection, and then when you go through it now, there's a lot of problematic stuff in there. It's the same with watching some episodes of Friends and stuff, I fondly remember that. But if you watch it today, there's some stuff that you raise your eyebrows a bit.
Makes you go, ooh.
Yeah, but at the same time, you gotta look at the time that it was made, and how I always see it is, look at the time it was made in, and that'll give it a good idea of why it was like that. And always appreciate the art rather than anything else. Just appreciate it for what it was back then, rather than what it should be now. That's at least how I see it. So I like to look at it from that standpoint. So I feel that every artist had their art created the way they wanted it. So,
and it worked in that time.
There's no problem with that. That's how I see it. But 100%. I love my Asterix though. Asterix also was one of those
Brilliant.
books that I just had to enjoy for the enjoyment of it. So we've got like the wide variety of comics and books and comics. I mean, I'm not really a big comic fan anymore. I stopped reading comics many years ago.
But the comics we get are like Invader Zim comics.
Invader Zim.
I hate Fairyland.
That's still going. I mean, the animated show stopped a while ago, but are they still making like comics of it?
No, it's just ones that we found by chance on Amazon.
Kez was lucky and she found it on Amazon.
Do you guys read Terry Pratchett at all?
Yes, love Terry Pratchett.
Yeah, we've got the whole collection as well. They brought out the nice hardcover stuff versions of it, so it's also a big fan of that.
That must be so awesome. We don't have the hardcover copies at the moment. I've only just started getting the collection here in the UK. So, because books
we've got soft covers of Terry Pratchett.
Yeah, the old Jack Kirby covers, the very colourful, gorgeous ones.
Yeah.
Those are still
that's
fantastic.
The one that we've got. I love the Jack Kirby ones because just the way he made the artwork for those books is
it's a perfect match really to the mood of the books and their whimsical style. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. So I think that's the covers that we've got for these books. Yeah, because nothing beats the Jack Kirby.
Oh, here they are.
But yeah, there's also Terry Goodkind. I don't know if you know who Terry Goodkind is.
I do. Shannara, right? Just a
no,
Shannara.
That's Terry Brooks. That one is Terry Brooks.
Oh, is that Terry Brooks?
Yeah, Terry Goodkind is the one who wrote the Sword of Truth series.
Oh, I keep confusing that and the Sword of Shannara series. I know of it. I don't know if I ever ended up reading it, but
it's a really good.
It's familiar.
It's very action packed though. So if you're willing to, you have to take the books out.
I'm trying.
Because that's just showing the spines. But it's very action packed. The story that Terry Goodkind actually wrote. He passed away sadly, but he wrote a really good action packed story when he wrote his books. If you like the fast paced action packed kind of a story, then this is definitely something that you might enjoy. If you're more into the slow design, those are
those are
ones.
Gorgeous.
That's super nice. Wow.
That's a weird because that's another new cover. So they've got like two sets of new covers. I guess one for hardcover, one for soft.
Yeah, that's soft.
I
really prefer the previous covers, soft covers to those though. I mean, that art looks great and everything, but it's not as dynamic and quirky.
Yeah, it's not the quirky designs that were before.
But those are super nice though.
They're really nice covers. They really are. I actually haven't looked at them until now. I'm not gonna lie. They've been in that box because
it's been sitting in the box.
I've been loath to take them out because I don't want to actually, damage the spines or anything. Because I'm one of those. I love my books. I can't have them get hurt. But yeah, so that's always an awesome conversation to have. I love talking books. Books are awesome. Any other questions from your side, Angel?
So we haven't done these at all this season, so we're going to start with this one. What is your favorite of all time? Because if I say recently, people get upset with me. So what is your favorite movie and TV series?
Movie or TV series, rather. Just don't make them think too hard like that. That's unfair on a Sunday.
TV series.
I mean, for movie, I'd probably say it's a tie between Contact and what's the name of it now, man? That weird movie with the people go into their dreams and then they go into their dreams.
Oh,
Inception, yeah.
I like to
really
call it
enjoyed
Inception. But yes. A good movie, I liked it as well.
Yeah, those two. I don't know. I just love Contact. I think the pacing is superb. Obviously, it's based on a book that was itself superb, but yeah, I just love it. And Jodie Foster's incredible in that. I love her.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I love Moulin Rouge. I love musicals. But I would also say, like Christopher Nolan, Inception, those sort of series.
Dark Knight series.
Yeah, series. Yes, there's so much good stuff. What's the one on Apple with the innie and the outie? Severance. Love that. That was super good. I would say that's one of the top ones. And Succession as well. We also thoroughly enjoyed Succession.
Yeah, there's been a lot of good TV lately that's made it difficult to pick a favorite, but I'd probably pick something much older just because I enjoyed it so much as a kid and it kind of stuck with me forever. So like Stargate SG-1, which is just the absolute campiest sci-fi ever, and I adore it.
Oh yeah.
Even if it's very predictable, I just love that. But also a very obscure British TV show called Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, which is essentially a faux horror series by a very full of himself writer who then so it's an actor playing a writer who plays a character in the show. It's this whole meta thing, but it's deliberately bad in the most perfect way. It's just hysterical. So many layers to it. Brilliant actors in it. They're all doing their best bad acting impression, and it's just, I've rewatched it countless times. It's just fantastic.
Nice. Right, I got one here. Who do you think would win in a fight? Gandalf or Dumbledore?
Gandalf the Grey or Gandalf the White?
Gandalf the White, of course.
Well, then Gandalf the White would win. He's a Maiar. I mean, Dumbledore's still just a wizard.
Exactly.
But he's so cute!
People who say that Gandalf would lose to Dumbledore clearly have never seen Gandalf in his complete splendor. Okay, that was just my.
Obviously, you know where my thought would go.
Yeah, Kez is a Harry Potter fan. I'm the Lord of the Rings fan. Favorite Star Trek captain?
Janeway.
Janeway's really good, but I might say Cisco. I mean, I think Cisco had a tough job to do. All Janeway had to do was not get her people killed. Cisco has to prevent all of humanity getting wiped out. I mean, yeah. I think that's a bit of a tougher call.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Cisco isn't a captain though; he's a commander.
She has to get her people, keep her people safe, but she also has to find their way back home and maneuver through things that they've never done. And
she does have to, but if she fails, there's no wider impact on the galaxy.
Yeah, unfortunately, Picard was one of those. He's my favorite captain. Will always be my favorite captain. But
TNG Picard is probably I mean,
yeah,
it's hard.
Not new Picard.
TNG Picard. That's the captain I'm talking about.
Well,
he's
you talk about new
to
Picard.
TNG.
We watched season 1, and I was like, okay, well that happened. We didn't watch season 2 because I heard it was just terrible. But then recently we watched season 3, and we really enjoyed it.
It's
surprisingly good.
Right at the end, they finally figured out, oh yeah, this is actually how to make it.
Yeah, this is how you make a Star Trek show.
I'm hoping that they basically looked at Strange New Worlds and went, okay, we'll just do that, but with the TNG cast, and it worked. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's not hard to make a space opera, you know. It's just like, look at what they did with TNG and Voyager and Deep Space Nine and Enterprise. Any of those, they were all very good. Some might argue Enterprise was bad, but I don't mind it.
I like it.
It's just very weird how they they had so much old examples to look at, and then Picard season 1 just didn't feel right. Like it was weird. And
Enterprise, this is the one with Archer.
Archer.
Yeah. Archer.
But the thing there is, because the first 2 seasons I think weren't great, but then they had the showrunner change, and then the 3rd and the 4th season, I remember that being super good, really, really good.
Yeah.
Is the 3rd season the one that opens with the probe coming in and like lasering the planet, or was that season 2? Because that's when it kind of really became more interesting for me. I can't remember what season that was. Might even have been 4.
Remember.
But it wasn't early on, certainly.
Yeah, I've started the whole series all over again, so I'm on TNG at the moment, and I'm going to be moving on to DS9 as soon as I'm done. And then Voyager, and then Enterprise. because I watch it in chronological order. I believe that that's the only way to watch it. So
Yeah, it's always the best way. Yeah.
Oddly enough, I've rewatched. I'm busy rewatching Voyager now from the very start, and I'm at episode 3 now. But what we noticed is because it was 4:3 aspect ratio, all those people are like super close to one another to get everything in the shot. And I'm like,
You're just imagining someone off camera going closer, closer, and like they're
Because you're not close
practically
enough.
touching so that the
Shane
shots
waits
can
on space, They're like
touching
this
noses.
That's hilarious. Hey, anyway.
Yeah, that's good.
But
That's
it's
good.
like also watching the original series, knowing that someone was standing actually making the sound effects for the door opening and closing, someone with a microphone going
Oh, wow, did they? Wow. I didn't know
No, the
that.
very apparently in the very beginning. I haven't looked this up and I haven't researched it, but Kez
we watched a
has good
documentary
source
about
saying
it
that
Wow.
years ago. We watched it with my dad, and I remember them saying that they had someone with a microphone standing making those sounds.
I can believe
in
it.
the
I mean,
beginning.
So, yeah, so can I.
it has that look to it that it's this wasn't a high budget production at first.
But also like the starships, it's all carpets. That's weird, right? It's
Yeah.
weird having carpets in a space. But they actually reference that point in the 3rd series of Picard when they get into the TNG ship. And then Picard references, I didn't miss the carpets, or whatever the line was. But yeah, it's so funny.
It's supposed to. It's a galaxy class starship, so it's supposed to be an exploration ship, which means it's like a cruise ship basically.
Oh,
so it's got to be all fancy and pretty, and people have to be comfortable because it's got to be like they're living at home, and that's why they use the
Interesting,
carpet and
okay.
all that stuff. So essentially, that was the idea behind it. But Picard was never really a fan of it because his previous ship, the Stargazer, was built for battle. So it didn't have all the fancy carpets and stuff that the Enterprise had.
What do you think of Discovery?
Don't like Discovery. I don't like
Don't
Discovery.
get him started. Don't get him started.
I
I
believe
thought
that
that's
Star
the
Trek
response.
ended at the end of Enterprise. I've not watched anything since because after Discovery came out, it just ruined
We
my
watched the first
my thoughts on
2
the Star
episodes, I
Treks.
think it was, and then
Oh, yeah, I couldn't watch any further than the first 2 episodes. I was just like, this is so bad. I just don't like it. The ship looks like a shovel. It's just terrible. So no, it wasn't one. It was not one of my favorites. I have to admit it wasn't. I did watch Picard as well, and I was kind of insulted by the first season, and then I never watched it again after that. I know everyone keeps saying that season 3 is great and stuff like that, but I'm loath to start it because of what
We'll
they did
get
to me
there.
in season 1.
Have you watched Strange New Worlds?
No, I haven't watched that yet.
That's
I'm
really good.
Planning on looking
That's
at it.
super good.
Yeah, I'm planning on giving it a look. Apparently, it's quite good. So I'm definitely planning on giving that a watch and seeing what it's like.
we
Good
learned
one.
something interesting recently, because we're actually part of a Starship like fan club kind of thing, and one of our people on the ship was saying that I think it's funny because we watched the clip of him with the badge constantly falling off. So in the Next Generation, when they wear those their uniforms, it's made out of wool because the guy who plays Data had a back brace, so they had to accommodate for him wearing the back brace and have the bigger fitting uniforms with wool and stuff. And every time, so the Picard mover with him pulling down his shirt the whole time was because the jersey kept riding up. And there's a funny clip that I'll send to you guys where every time he pulls it down, his comm badge would fly off. And they'd have to do retake so many times. And just watching that was really funny. And knowing that that's the reason why he kept doing that was to keep it from going down. It wasn't like anything they said, oh no, you have to do this because it's the Picard move or whatever.
Yeah, it was like Riker and his maneuver, where he like steps over the chair with his one leg. Everyone knows the Riker maneuver. But yeah, so I think it's about that time. Really,
Yeah.
isn't it? We're on an hour and 20 minutes already. We've kept you guys, I think, long enough. Are there any last thoughts from you guys? Anything that you'd like to mention?
Advice, words
Advice
of wisdom,
or anything
anything.
like that?
Oh, wow.
I think just thanks for the opportunity. I mean, we're always quite keen to talk about Nine Noir Lives. Maybe, I mean, if I have to get a bit soppy, I think in terms of if you are in a situation where you want to make a game, but you feel that it's, you know, like being in South Africa or somewhere where it's not really, it's difficult to do. You know, just keep believing. You know, other people might not believe in it, but you know, it's quite possible. It's just wherever there's not a way, make a way. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, 100%. Anything from your side?
No, don't think so. I mean, we can maybe say that, you know, we are beginning to work on our new game. So if you are interested in game dev and you've got skills that you think would be useful, get in contact with us, you know. Who knows?
There you go.
That's how we met all the people that made our first game happen. So, yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find your game? Is it just on Steam or is it on
It's
other
just on
platforms
Steam,
as well?
Nine Noir Lives, also on GOG, if you prefer DRM free. But yeah, it's in both
And
places.
Epic. It's on Epic as well.
If for some reason you have Epic, yeah.
And soon
Funny
it will
enough, I have
be
it
on
for free
Xbox
games.
as well.
Oh yeah, we never even mentioned that, but we are working. It's taking longer than hoped. It's difficult because we're here and we can't get dev kits, whatever.
Yeah.
But we're going to be getting it onto the Xbox store as well, and that would include controller support. That's actually already out in a beta branch on Steam to try out, but you'll be able to play it 100% with the controller.
Does that mean I can play it on my Steam Deck?
Yeah, should work really well on a Steam Deck.
Nice.
Now
I mean,
he's definitely gonna get
I think
it.
it already partially does. Someone tried it by manually setting up mappings, but it will be properly supported once this new release, once this new version goes out.
Awesome. That's awesome. So I'll definitely have it on my Steam Deck then. Awesome. I think that's about it, actually. There's nothing else I need to say. My brain has just decided to stop working for some reason. Apologies. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's been wonderful talking to you and getting to know a bit more about yourselves and more about the game as well and how you actually, you know, came up with it. So thank you so much for being, you know, as accommodating as you have been as well and allowing us to interview you and changing the times and dates. And I know that it was a bit of a nightmare for you as well. So thank you so much for accommodating us when that actually did happen. Guys, thank you so much. And for any of you guys out there, just go out and get the game. Trust me, if you like your point and clicks, you're going to want to get this game.
It's cats and animals. Why would you not want to play it?
Exactly, it's cats and animals. You know, it's cool. You know the SA Geeks. We're like, that's what we do. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Remember to hit that subscribe button down below. If you really like the video, hit the thumbs up button as well, just to help us in that algorithm. And as always, remember,
Keep it.
keep it geeky.